Hi friends, welcome to this video on retrograde Saturn. If you have retrograde Saturn in your birth chart, what kind of results you can get? If Saturn is placed in a retrograde position in any house of your birth chart, alright? So all the 12 houses will be discussed. Now before I go into the video friends, I just want to give you a small introduction. What do you mean by a retrograde Saturn? First of all, Saturn is the planet of justice, planet of karma. Saturn is also the planet which is responsible for the rewards of your karma. Alright, and Saturn is connected to the karma that you are supposed to execute and engage yourself in this life. Alright, and Saturn is also definitely this a significator of discipline, being methodical, hardworking, perseverant, patient, goal-oriented, structured, responsible. So yes, and Saturn is also connected to the rewards that we can reap, or rewards that we can receive because of our hard work. So Saturn is also somebody who can either reward us or punish us for our deeds or karmas, because Saturn also rules the natural 11th house in the zodiac, in the natural zodiac. So Saturn is the arbiter of justice. Alright, now this planet, which is so analytical, Saturn also shows your ability to analyze things. So somebody who has a powerful Saturn can also be a very deep thinker, can be a great analyst, even researcher. They can have analytical powers. Now what will happen when Saturn will come to a particular house, that also in a retrograde way? Saturn can also show liberation, because it is also the significator of the 12th house. Saturn can show non-attachment, also. Now when Saturn is retrograde in your birth chart, then definitely all these significations of Saturn you will experience, and also you will experience them to a greater degree, because what happens when you retrograde, when a planet retrogrades, it will go back and it will then focus on itself actually. So here in case of Saturn, it is your actions, your karmas, and Saturn is a significator of your profession. So you will have a tendency to review your actions, your deeds, your karmas, and also definitely you may focus a lot on your profession, because retrograde planet, especially here we are talking of retrograde Saturn, it makes you take a pause, think for a while, go back, review everything that you have been doing, and then gain certain insights, as a result of that observation, re-observation. You gain better insights, you gain a better level of maturity, you gain wisdom, and then you move ahead, and then finally you resume your journey ahead. So retrograde Saturn will make you go back for a while to reconsider things, review your actions, and review everything, and then to gain better knowledge, better understanding of things, so that you can move ahead eventually with greater wisdom, with a very balanced sense of judgment, with greater insights and knowledge. You are able to move ahead later on. That means a retrograde Saturn can also give you very good results if it is well placed in the chart. Then you will get very good results. We should always look at the dispositor of Saturn. If Saturn is retrograde, say it is getting retrograde in the sign of Cancer, then you should look at how moon is placed in your chart. If moon is well placed, you can get good results because of your retrograde Saturn. So it is very important to look at the position, the placement of the dispositor. Alright? And there are certain general observations about how Saturn will do in certain zodiac signs. We all know that Saturn is an airy planet. Okay, its Mula Trikona sign is Aquarius, which is an air sign, and Saturn also rules another sign, Capricorn, which is an earth sign. So Saturn will do very well when it is placed in both air signs and earth signs. Okay, so it will do very well in these signs. That means Saturn will do very well if it is placed in the air signs of Gemini, Libra and Aquarius, or if it is placed in the earth signs of Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn. Then generally you can expect good results if Saturn is retrograde also. Okay, because Saturn is considered to be more or less powerful in these signs. But yes, the dispositor should not be highly afflicted in the chart. Now friends, also what about the water signs? Saturn, if it is placed in a retrograde Saturn, if it is placed in water signs, it can definitely cause a lot of emotional upheavals in life. It's possible, but it can eventually make you very compassionate and even a spiritual person. It is very good for spiritual practices. If Saturn is getting retrograde in water signs, it's considered to be very good for all sorts of spiritual practices. That is if Saturn is in the signs of Cancer or Pisces or Scorpio, then it's good for your spiritual growth, enlightenment. Alright? Now friends, what about the fire signs? Generally, Saturn is not comfortable in fire signs. Okay? Fire signs are, we know, Aries, Sagittarius and Leo. These are the three fire signs. Saturn generally does not feel comfortable in fire signs. You know why? Because fire signs, they are the signs of change. Okay? They believe in bringing about a revolutionary change actually. So fire signs are connected with change and revolution and all that. Okay? Saturn is generally not so comfortable in such signs because Saturn is a planet which believes in stability. Okay? So that could be one reason. But yes, Saturn, when it is in airy signs, then it can also turn the native revolutionary, because airy signs especially Aquarius, then Saturn can also protest against tradition and can also be in favor of bringing about change. So in airy signs, yes, that is possible. But when Saturn is in earth signs, Saturn will, like in Capricorn or in other earth signs, Saturn, then the native will love stability, growth, stability, and will not be so open to change. So nevertheless, Saturn is a planet. We know that Saturn is a planet which is airy, and it is also known for its coldness, because Saturn believes in being very practical, very systematic and very calculating. Saturn is not a planet which is going to believe in which is going to fall for emotions and all that. Saturn believes in being very practical. And Saturn is a planet which is associated with coldness. So Saturn somehow feels uncomfortable in the fiery signs. Because fiery signs, they also exhibit a sense of restlessness, a sense of impulsiveness also at times, especially the fiery sign of Mars, that is especially Aries. Aries is connected with impulsiveness, restlessness. That is why Saturn debilitates in Aries. Okay, even Leo is ruled by Sun, and Sun and Saturn, they are not friendly to each other. So Saturn also does not feel comfortable in Leo. When Saturn is in Leo, you may have problems with authority. You may revolt against authority. You may have problems also in your relationship with your father. It's possible. Now, but again, you always have to look at the dispositor. If the dispositor is well placed, then even if you have Saturn in Aries or Saturn in Leo, you can get good results. A retrograde Saturn here I'm talking about. Now what about, but out of the 3 fiery signs, I have seen that Saturn is better off in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is after all ruled by Jupiter, and Saturn and Jupiter, they do not they are not inimical to each other, Saturn and Jupiter. All right, so Saturn can do well, a retrograde Saturn can do well if it is in Sagittarius. So out of the 3 fire signs, Sagittarius is the best that I feel. But yes, again, Jupiter should be well placed. Then you will get very good results even if you have a retrograde Saturn in Sagittarius. Now friends, retrograde Saturn, in which zodiac sign, in which house, you have to look at that. You have to look at the dispositor of the retrograde Saturn. That's very important. And also, Jupiter should be more or less well placed in the chart. Then a retrograde Saturn will give you good results. Jupiter should not be afflicted in the chart. Also, when you have retrograde Saturn, you should look at the positions of Moon and Mercury. Moon and Mercury, Moon is your mind and Mercury is also your thought process. So Moon and Mercury should also not be afflicted in the chart when you have a retrograde Saturn in any house. Alright, so friends, now let's start the discussion. What results you will get when Saturn is in a certain house? So Saturn, retrograde Saturn in the first house of your birth chart. First house is generally, it's a natural house of Mars, because in the chart of the cosmic man, you have the sign of Aries in the first house. Okay, so we have to superimpose the chart of the cosmic man over your natal chart. So that is why Saturn is actually not so comfortable in the first house, which is part of the Dharma trine. Alright, so here it can show that there can be delay if you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house, delay in things in life, delay in delay in making progress in life, progress in your profession. There can be delay even in your marriage. It is possible when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house, or there can be obstacles in your marriage and relationship when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house. So here Saturn actually does not feel that comfortable, because after all this house is originally ruled by Mars and it's ruled by a fiery sign of Aries. So here Saturn does not feel comfortable. A lot of change of jobs can happen, and you may also every time you may review what went wrong, why did I lose my job and all that. A lot of delay in seeing professional growth is also possible when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house, unless the dispositor is very well placed. If the dispositor is very well placed in your chart, then definitely you can get a job. But yes, there could be delays in promotion. It's possible. You could have certain friction with people in authority. That is possible. At your workplace, you may also at times enter into arguments or trouble with people in authoritative position. That is possible. You may also okay, either be distanced from your father somehow, or your father may not be present, or you may have a problematic relationship also with your father. But if the dispositor is well placed, then eventually, definitely you will be responsible towards your father. If the dispositor, you have to look at the dispositor. Say if Saturn is in a certain zodiac sign, say if it is in Aries itself, then how Mars is placed. If Mars is well placed, then you will be responsible also towards your father. And you can also eventually see growth in your profession. You just need to focus on your work. And yeah, friends, delays in undertaking long distance travels, all these things can happen. So when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house, you tend to review your actions a lot. You know, everything, I mean, whatever actions you're engaged in, you tend to review them, you know, this happens. But if the dispositor is well placed, you will review them and you will make sense of everything. You will know where you were kind of going wrong or overboard. You will rectify yourself and you will move ahead with a positive spirit. I mean, at least you will move ahead with a sense of maturity. So with a balanced sense of judgment, when the dispositor is well placed, then these things will happen. Okay, so yeah. So otherwise you may feel, if the dispositor is not so well placed, that okay, you are not getting lucky, and you know, there is no rise in fortune, or you are not fortunate in life. You may feel that also if the dispositor is not well placed. So what you need to do is you need to review. You already tend to review your actions a lot, but what you need to do is you actually need to get rid of that pessimistic attitude towards life. That is very important. So when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house, it can make a native highly pessimistic also. Okay, it can make them highly skeptical. Okay, so you need to they may also engage in self-doubt. So you need to come out of that skepticism, that tendency to doubt everybody and everything. So that is not good for your growth in life. Okay, so that's what you have to understand when you have a retrograde Saturn in the first house. All right, but if the dispositor is well placed, it can also make you highly analytical. It can make you very intelligent, and it can also, this is part of the dharma trine. So eventually you can also move towards, you know, you may move towards, you will definitely shoulder your responsibility well. So if the dispositor is well placed, it can make you very responsible, very dutiful, and even, yeah, you will believe in your karma. And and you will believe in being very faithful and dutiful, and you will believe in justice. Yes. So yes, friends, now let's move on to what will happen. And Aries, no, Aries is the symbol of Aries. Is that of the ram. Ram is the male sheep. Okay, so here Aries is why a sign which is associated with a lot of restlessness, impulsiveness. Okay, so if Mars is not well placed, then you may see a lot of changes in your profession, impulsive decisions in life you may take and all that. But if Mars is more or less well placed, then you will be able to somehow, you know, get hold of things in life, and there could be a few setbacks, but finally you will be able to manage to move ahead in life with maturity and with a balanced sense of judgment. Now let's move on to Saturn in the retrograde Saturn in the second house. If you have retrograde Saturn in the second house, it means this is generally considered to be a good placement, because second house is originally ruled by Taurus. So the Lord is Venus actually, and Saturn and Venus, they get along well with each other, and this is actually the house of Venus, and you have to find out how Venus is also placed in the chart, because Venus is the natural lord of the second house, and this is an earth sign, Taurus sign. Okay, so the earth sign, so it could be here, the earth sign in the second house originally we have. In your chart it could be sign of any element, but we cannot forget that second house is basically the house which belongs to Venus, and it is a house which has a strong earth element, definitely. Okay, so here Saturn will give you good results if you focus on your retrograde Saturn, if you really focus on your work, if you really are disciplined, structured, methodical, you will do very well, and you will in due course of time also accumulate wealth. It's possible in life, you can accumulate even great wealth if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn in the second house is well placed in the chart. Now, retrograde Saturn in the second house can give you very good results. Generally, you have to find out also if it is in an earth sign also, or if it is in an air sign. Okay, it can give you good results. Okay, because these signs are favorable. Okay, but otherwise, if it is in fire sign especially, then find out how the dispositor is placed in the chart. All right, so yeah, so retrograde Saturn here will make you focus on you may have a problematic relationship with some people in your family. That's possible. You may encounter challenges in gaining wealth in life. That is also possible. But a retrograde Saturn actually may initially give you failure. You may have to face failures or downfall, but that downfall is actually, it could be a blessing in disguise for you. So from there you will start looking inwards, you will start analyzing everything, reviewing everything that you were engaged in doing. So you will be able to identify your mistakes and see how you can improve yourself in the present, in the near future, how you can rectify yourself. So yes, a financial crisis can also be a blessing in disguise for you. That will enable you to, that will give you an opportunity actually to make a pause and analyze the situation and find out where you're going wrong, what is actually going wrong, so that you can rectify your mistake, and you can identify your mistake, rectify yourself, and then you move ahead with greater insights, and with greater wisdom you're able to move ahead, and then you will be able to focus on your work. You will realize the worth of money, you will realize the worth of resources, and then you will focus more on your work in a very strategic, in a very systematic way, and you will focus more on your own strategies that you're going to adopt in your work, in your profession, so that you can accumulate resources and see financial growth in life. Okay, that is possible. But yes, a retrograde Saturn in the second house, it can make you, it's possible that you may go away from your family, or somehow you may get distanced from your family. That is also possible because of your work or due to some other reason. That will depend on your chart. This is part of the Earth trine, the trine of materialistic pursuits. So here Saturn, retrograde Saturn, can make you very calculating, very systematic, very goal oriented, Okay, so you will review your goals also, what goals you have set for yourself, and then you will move ahead with after proper analysis, with better calculations, you will move ahead and make sure that you become successful in your endeavors. So if the dispositor is well placed, retrograde Saturn can give you, success in profession and also wealth in life. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 3rd house. This is the house of Gemini originally, ruled by Mercury. This is a good placement of Saturn retrograde. So here you may, initially you may not be able to figure out what skills you need to acquire, okay, in order to excel in your profession. That is possible initially, but Saturn wants you to focus on your efforts. So this is the house of initiative, courage and efforts and hard work, 3rd house. So here it may so happen that you may make attempts, you may take initiative and you may fail also, okay, but it is your failure which will inspire you to grow in life. You will learn from your failures. Your failures will be your inspiration, and you will get up from there once again, and you will, start focusing on your efforts. You will fight back, and in due course of time, with proper patience, perseverance, you will be able to focus on your efforts, and because of your efforts, because of your skills, you will end up doing well in your profession. Yes, there could be somewhat delay, so delay can be there, okay, in seeing growth and expansion in life. There can be delay, but there is no denial, because this is a house where retrograde Saturn can give you excellent results. Now if Mercury is not well placed, or if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is not well placed in the chart, then definitely you can be very confused also. You may not be able to know what you should actually do in life, what skills you need to acquire, and whenever you go to take any initiative, you will encounter obstacles and problems. So all these things will happen when the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is not well placed. Then you need to do the remedies for that planet, okay. Yeah, so this is part of the Kama Trikona, the trine of the 3rd house, the trine of materialistic desires. So you will have a great desire if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn in the 3rd house is well placed. So Saturn retrograde in the 3rd house and Saturn's dispositor is well placed in the chart, then definitely you will be very ambitious. You will never give up, because 3rd house is also an upachaya bhava. So you will never give up on your ambition, your desires. You will keep them alive, okay, and you will go on facing all obstacles, struggles, and you will rise above everything. You will overcome all obstacles, and finally you will be victorious and you will be successful in your endeavors. That is possible. Now let's move on to what will happen. Now retrograde Saturn in the 3rd house, definitely you could be somehow distanced from your younger siblings. It is possible. But if the dispositor is well placed, then you can be also responsible towards them. You can have a sense of responsibility also towards your younger siblings. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 4th house of your birth chart. This is the house of your mother, the house of your home or homeland, mental peace, comfort, assets. So when Saturn comes here, in a retrograde way. So you can encounter obstacles in these areas of life. You may initially in life, such people, they may feel that they are not happy at their house. So a sort of restlessness, lack of mental peace when you are at home. So somehow you may not feel peace, find peace at home. That is possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 4th house. You may have a problematic relationship with your mother. But if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn in the 4th house is well placed, then even if you are far away from your mother, you will be responsible towards your mother. You will always have the desire to get back to your mother, and you will have a sense of responsibility towards your mother if the dispositor is well placed. Now, retrograde Saturn, wherever retrograde Saturn is there in your chart, it also shows that you have a lot of pending karma there, actually. So you have some pending karma connected to your mother, to your home or domestic matters. Now, or to some property matter. Now, pending karma. So some karma which is pending from your past life, and you have to fulfill that karma in this life. So definitely, so when you have retrograde Saturn in the 4th house, then you have to be very responsible towards your mother, and you also need to focus on your domestic matters, on your home front. You need to focus on that, and you need to take care, you need to be responsible towards whoever is connected to your home, towards your family members. You need to be responsible towards them. Now, because you have some pending karma attached to your home or domestic life, now if retrograde Saturn is the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is well placed in the chart, then definitely I have seen that when you have retrograde Saturn in the 4th house, such people, they really try their level best to take care of their house. They do a lot for their family, for their house, for their mother. Okay, they really want to, they really, they feel always, at times it becomes a little burdensome also for them, a little burdensome. But they are so responsible towards their house, towards their family. So they have a sense of responsibility, accountability. So this will happen when the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is well placed in the chart. Now, here also it can show that there could be some obstacles in property issues, or some obstacles in assets, in accumulation of your property or assets. That you may encounter obstacles. That is possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 4th house. Okay, so you may have to review how you have been dealing with property issues, and then maybe you have to improve your stance or attitude, and then you may get success eventually in property deals or matters. Okay, the same can be said if your profession is connected to real estate. You may encounter obstacles initially, but those obstacles will actually teach you how to better yourself, how to improve yourself, okay, in your work. So you learn from obstacles, you learn from failures. That's what the retrograde Saturn compels you to do. It compels you to review your actions, go back to what happened and where you went wrong, and see how you can improve yourself. It makes you attain a sort of self-realization. You attain, because you go inwards, you analyze everything, and then you come up with new insights that makes you somebody wise. You become wise, and then you're in a better position to deal with the matters of that particular house where retrograde Saturn is placed in. So when retrograde Saturn is placed in a certain house, you should look at the dispositor, and you should always be prepared to, indulge in self-introspection. That is very important. If you do that, it will give you good results. Fourth house is part of the moksha trine, and this is actually originally ruled by Cancer sign, and here you have moon as the original lord of the fourth house. So find out how moon or the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is placed in the chart. Okay, so if Saturn is placed in water signs in this chart, then eventually retrograde Saturn in water signs in the fourth house, then eventually the native can move towards compassion, charity, towards self-realization through meditation, through charity, and can also move towards spirituality or spiritual practices. That also can happen when Saturn is in retrograde in the fourth house, and if it is in water signs. If it is in earth signs, then initially you may make you may encounter obstacles in attaining property and all, but finally you can be successful in your endeavors, related to property, related to real estate. It can also give you very good results if you are a Vastu consultant. Retrograde Saturn in the fourth house, if you're a Vastu consultant, if you're doing proper research and analysis when you undertake Vastu consultancy, then you can do very well also. Now retrograde Saturn here when it is in the fourth house, so this is also the sign of Cancer, I told you, and the sign of Cancer is also the sign in which Jupiter exalts. Okay, so definitely here what you should do when you have a retrograde Saturn in Cancer, because Cancer sign is also, retrograde Saturn in the fourth house, because fourth house is originally connected to Cancer sign. So if retrograde Saturn is in the fourth house, no matter in whichever sign it is placed, you should enhance your power of intuition. That is very important. So in order to enhance your power of intuition, even if you had faced initial setbacks in your profession or any kind of deals, property deals, or in your profession, if you faced setbacks or failures, then you should make a pause. You should analyze everything well. You should go inwards, do proper research of everything. If it is your profession, your entire whatever you are engaged in your if it is your profession and you have experienced setbacks in your profession, then you have to analyze all things pertaining to your profession properly, so that you can come up with new creative insights. You can come up with wisdom. Yes, so that's very important. So then if your level of intuition also will get enhanced, and you will make better decisions in your profession, in your career. You will become more responsible towards your family, towards your mother, towards your house, and you will be able to fulfill the pending karma attached to retrograde Saturn in the fourth house. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the fifth house. Fifth house, this is again originally ruled by Leo, which is a fiery sign. Saturn does not feel comfortable in the fiery sign, which originally rules the fifth house, and this is also the house which is lorded by Sun originally. So Saturn actually feels uncomfortable. Retrograde Saturn feels uncomfortable in the fifth house. Okay, you can get good results only if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn in the fifth house is very well placed. Only then, maybe even after certain initial obstacles in your education, you may finally succeed. You will not give up, and finally you will gain knowledge that is possible, and finally you will be able to overcome your problems in life, obstacles. You will overcome them, and you will be successful in gaining knowledge finally, which will also enable you to see growth and expansion in life eventually, but this will happen only if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn in the 5th house is very well placed, and if Jupiter is also very well placed in the chart, then you may expect good results even if Saturn is retrograde in the 5th house. Otherwise, generally retrograde Saturn in the 5th house is not considered to be a good placement. You see a lot of challenges in life, especially in your profession. You don't see proper growth. Okay, you make efforts, but the credit is taken away by someone else. At your workplace, you are at times treated as a doormat at the workplace. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 5th house, you are someone who makes all efforts. You are someone who do all the hard work, but you are never praised. You are never duly appreciated for that hard work or for your efforts, and the credit is somehow given to someone else. This happens when you have retrograde Saturn in the 5th house. It can happen. So this is a problem, because after all here retrograde Saturn is not at all comfortable in the 5th house. Okay, now also you can be manipulated by others. People can manipulate you, and they may also take advantage of you when you have retrograde Saturn in the 5th house. All right, so that's what I have seen. Now 5th house is part of the Dharma trine, and it is ruled originally by fire signs. So here Saturn is not comfortable. Saturn is actually here you can get good results only if you really focus on knowledge, if you really focus on your education or higher education and on your knowledge. If you really focus on that, then you can get good results. If you really focus on acquiring skills, on enhancing your skills, you can get good results. When retrograde Saturn is in the 5th house, you can consider doing some independent business. It will be good for you, because if you are doing if you're in a profession, you may encounter problem with people in authority. Retrograde Saturn in the 5th house, your relationship also with your father may not be that good, and you may have problems with authority, with people in authority. That is why it is always good if you can do some work independently. Okay, you could be an independent artist, you could be a creator, you could be somebody who you have your own independent business. You could be independently connected to the entertainment industry. It's possible. An independent artist. You could do some freelancing job also. That is also possible. Okay, where you have at least some degree of independence. Okay, then you can do very well. Otherwise, with this position of retrograde Saturn in the 5th house, you may definitely have problems with authority, with people in position and power. So the best remedy for retrograde Saturn in the 5th house is to stay away from all conflicts with people in authority, okay, including your father. All right, but yes, this position, when you have Saturn in this position, you should focus on knowledge, you should focus on acquiring skills. Okay, so those skills and your knowledge will finally take you ahead in life. Now let's move on to what will happen when retrograde Saturn is in the 6th house. This is generally considered to be a more or less good placement. All right, but always you should see how retrograde Saturn's dispositor is placed in the chart, and also how Mercury, because this is the original house of Mercury, and this house is ruled by the sign of Virgo. Okay, so that is why it is also important to see how Mercury and the dispositor of Saturn is placed in your chart. very important. If they are more or less well placed, you will get very good results. It can make you highly analytical, systematic, okay, goal oriented, strategic. It can make you detail oriented. You can be a wonderful researcher. You can do very well in the field of investigation, research, in medical science, in the field of law. You can do very well. You can also be a veterinary doctor. So you can also later on move towards social service. So when you have retrograde Saturn in the 5th house, definitely you have some pending karma attached to the 5th house. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 6th house, some pending karma attached to the house of prarabdha karma. Okay, so now you cannot, this is the house of prarabdha karma. So Saturn wants you to eventually also move towards social service. So you should do that. You should be also kind to pet animals when you have retrograde Saturn in the 6th house. Some pending karma attached to animals, birds, creatures, not just pets, but all animals, birds and creatures. So you may also fight against cruelty done to animals. That is possible. Okay, so that will give you good results. You may be into social service eventually. That will give you very good results. But this is a very good placement for being a researcher, investigator, scientist, because this will give you this position of retrograde Saturn in the 6th house. And if Mercury is well placed, it can give you great analytical skills, great ability to go to the depth of things and analyze matters and come up with new findings, new truths, come up with new insights. So you can be a wonderful researcher with this position. You can do very well in any field of research. Your profession could be connected to any field. But yes, if the dispositor is not so well placed, then initially you may encounter obstacles in your job life. It's possible. If you are doing some job, you may encounter obstacles. Yes, and you may have to review what went wrong, and so that how can you improve yourself whenever you take up a job in future. So yeah, that's what Saturn wants you to do. Saturn wants you to review everything, how you have been working on a day-to-day basis. Saturn wants you to be disciplined in your day-to-day life, to lead a healthy routine life, to be systematic, to be detail-oriented, to be methodical, to be structured in your approach to work. That's what Saturn wants you to be. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 6th house, if you focus a lot on your analytical powers, if you focus on your work, go to the depth of things and analyze everything connected to your work, or whenever you're in any situation, if you have that ability to analyze things deeply, then retrograde Saturn in the 6th house can also enable you to, and if Mercury is well placed, you will be able to fight back. Even if your enemies, try to kind of attack you, you will have that power, you will have that analytical ability, you will have that willpower to fight back and defeat your enemies also. If the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is well placed, then you can also fight against diseases also. Okay, so that is why. But if Mercury is not well placed, if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is not well placed, then one may also suffer from diseases, debts, disputes. All these problems can happen, litigations, so may not go in their favor also if the dispositor is not well placed, and if Mercury is not well placed. All these things also can happen. But generally this is considered to be a good placement for retrograde Saturn, in the 6th house. It can really give you good results. Saturn only wants you to review everything, review your actions, the way you have been dealing with things associated with your day-to-day work, the way you have been dealing maybe with your enemies, with your rivals, with your colleagues, with people at your workplace, the way you have been dealing with your debts, the way you have been dealing with disputes, arguments, quarrels. So Saturn wants you to be analytical. Saturn wants you to be intelligent. Saturn wants you to focus inwards and gain insights, wisdom, and then fight back. So if you have this spirit, if you have this competitive spirit, if you have this fighting spirit, then you can really do well. If you have that perseverance and patience, and yet you have that ability to fight back, and you have that ability to continue your struggle with patience and perseverance, retrograde Saturn in the 6th house can give you excellent results. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 7th house. Some pending karma connected to your marriage or spouse is possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house. So initially there could be problems in your marriage or marital life. You will have to review everything, what has gone wrong, how I can improve myself, how I can be more responsible towards my partner and spouse. And when you go deep within yourself, when you take recourse to self-introspection, you will also be able to see your own shortcomings, your own flaws, and from there, your relationship will also start improving eventually. Okay? And then over time, you will see that you're able to understand your partner in a better way. Your understanding for your partner will develop. You will develop a greater sense of tolerance, patience, and you will develop better understanding with your partner. You will be more responsible towards your partner. You will also be loyal towards your partner. Okay, so all these things are possible, and it can give you good results also eventually for your marital life. So finally, if you never give up on your partner, though there may be quarrels, disagreements, okay, there may be problems initially in the relationship, but if you do not give up, if you decide to somehow stick on, if you somehow decide to wait for the right time to arrive and for things to cool down and become better, if you have that patience, then eventually your relationship with your spouse can improve a lot. Because the more you analyze everything, what went wrong, how I can improve myself, then that will enable you to be more responsible, dutiful towards your partner. And then your partner also will be in a better position to understand you, and finally your marital life eventually can be successful also when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house. But look at how Venus is placed, because Venus naturally rules the 7th house. So Venus, how it is placed in the chart, and the dispositor of retrograde Saturn, how it is placed in the chart. If they are not so well placed, then definitely there could be problems with your spouse or life partner. There could be problems in your marriage, and you may get distanced or even separated from your partner. That is also possible. So, but if the dispositor is well placed, Venus is also more or less well placed, then even if there is some distance initially, separation, finally you can go back to your partner and reconcile, and finally both of you can come together and you can make your marriage successful. What about your profession here? Independent business. So 7th house is the house of your business, whether you do it independently or with your business partner. The same things can happen even with respect to your independent business. Okay, initial misunderstandings with partner, but later on, if you're able to evaluate, you're able to kind of go deep within yourself. Yes, you tend to you just want to observe everything well. You want to re-examine everything. So retrograde Saturn makes you re-examine things. You want to observe everything or re-examine things. Okay, so re-observation, re-examination, that's what you do. And finally you will be able to get to the truth, and finally that will enable you to improve your relationship with your business partner also eventually. If you're doing independent business and if Saturn is placed in airy signs like Libra or Gemini or Aquarius, it can give you wonderful results. You can be very successful in your independent business or whatever profession you're doing if Saturn is in airy signs in the 7th house, because in the 7th house Saturn naturally exalts. So when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house in airy signs, you can do very well in your, you can do very well in your profession, you can even excel in your profession. Now if you have this is originally the house of Venus, we have to remember that. So it is important to look at the position of Venus in your chart. That will tell you what results you will get because of the retrograde Saturn in the 7th house. Results connected to your marriage, results connected to your business, independent business. Now retrograde Saturn in the 7th house, there could be certain delays in foreign travel also. This is possible. Okay, now retrograde Saturn in the 7th house, this is 7th house is part of the okay, Kama Trikona, the trine of desires. So here if Venus is well placed, if the dispositor is well placed, then retrograde Saturn in the 7th house can make you highly ambitious. You will have a lot of desire to, you know, be successful in your endeavors in life. You will want to gain from all endeavors, whether you know you make endeavors in your profession, whether you make endeavors in your interpersonal relationships, you will want to gain from everything. Okay, so it can make you very ambitious also when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house, because after all this is the trine of desires. Okay, so you just need to focus on your intelligence, because 7th house is originally ruled by Libra. Libra is an air sign. So you need to focus on your intelligence. You need to focus on your analytical skills. You need to focus on your power to balance things. Here Saturn can give you very good results if you are in the field of law. If you're doing any sort of research, investigation, then also you will do very well if you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house, because here it is the sign of Libra, which is an air sign, the sign of intellectual power. Okay, so yes friends, all these things we can say when you have retrograde Saturn in the 7th house. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 8th house. Here this is actually this house of Mars in the natural zodiac, and it is originally ruled by Scorpio, which is a water sign. So this placement of Saturn in the 8th, retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, is very good if you're moving towards spiritual practices, meditation, yoga, then it's very good for you. Now here again, if you have a retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, some obstacles in making joint assets, in having joint assets with spouse, some obstacles you may encounter, it's possible. Then there could be some there could be also problems in your marital life when you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house. That is possible. Somehow you may feel that you are getting physically distanced from your spouse or partner, because this is the house of intimate relationship with partner also. This is possible. Or maybe initially you may get distanced from your spouse or partner, but eventually, because again this is Saturn retrograde, but then if you kind of analyze everything, how you can actually make your partner happy or satisfy your partner's even physical needs, and if you develop a better understanding, then retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, and if the dispositor is well placed, then eventually you can develop greater understanding with your partner, and even your intimate relationship or overall relationship with your partner can also improve. That is also possible. Okay, now retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, if Saturn is in water signs especially, then it can definitely initially you may also have a tendency to focus on sex. It is possible. Okay, you may have a tendency and definitely for you that would be a very vital part of the relationship that you share with your spouse. Okay, so it is possible. And if there is lack of understanding between the two parties, then the native may also get distanced, physically distanced also from their spouse. That is why. So here what retrograde Saturn, even if it is in water signs or in whichever sign, here actually you want that there should be a very good understanding between you and your spouse when it comes to even the intimate relationship that you have with each other. So it has to be based on proper understanding, mutual understanding. That's what you want. So somehow if you see that your person or your partner is not able to somehow your vibes don't match with each other, then again you may kind of withdraw yourself from your partner. That is also possible. Or your partner may withdraw themselves from you physically. This is also possible. Okay, but but if the dispositor is well placed, and if this is originally the house of Scorpio, if Mars is well placed, then eventually you can develop better understanding, and your sexual compatibility with your partner can also improve over time. So this is a very good placement for getting into, as I told you, any sort of sadhana, mantra chanting also, spiritual practices, even occult practices. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, you have some pending karma connected to the 8th house. Maybe some pending karma connected to your in-laws. Maybe you have to be very responsible towards one of your in-laws or towards some in-law. You have to take care of them maybe. So it may be burdensome also, but please take care of them because you have some pending karma connected to the 8th house. Then some pending karma connected to the 8th house, so maybe that is why you will also eventually have to move towards spiritual progress in life. Okay, so maybe you can be a very good healer with this position. You can be a very good occultist. You can go into the occult when you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house. It is very good position. Also for being a psychologist, a psychological counselor, a very good position. Okay, so when you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house, all these professions are good for you. Very good position for being a surgeon, for being any sort of researcher, investigator, because 8th house is after all connected to diving deep into matters, going to the depth of things and doing research and getting at the bottom of things and getting to know the real truth behind things. So uncovering whatever is hidden, secretive, mysterious. So all these things are connected to the 8th house. So you have some pending karma connected to the 8th house. So definitely you may be interested in the occult. You may be interested in any sort of research, investigation. That is possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house. And you should go towards research, investigation. Okay. If the dispositor is not well placed even Mars is not well placed, then there can be ups and downs in your profession. There can be change of jobs, okay, loss of job also, and a lot of struggle, ups and downs in your profession also. It can happen. So you will get wonderful results if you are into any field of research, investigation, with this position, whether it is medical science, whether it is the field of law, whether it is you could be even a chartered accountant, you could get into underground mining, you could be an occultist, psychologist. All these jobs or professions are very good for you when you have retrograde Saturn in the 8th house. Now, but yes, eventually this is part of the moksha trine, so you should move towards some sort of spiritual realization, self-realization. That is very important. Now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 9th house. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 9th house, this is again not considered to be a very good placement, because here Saturn feels a little uncomfortable, because 9th house is originally ruled by Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. Saturn generally does not feel comfortable in fiery signs. But yes, if Jupiter is well placed in your chart, then you will get good results. If you have retrograde Saturn in the 9th house, you have to find out how Jupiter and also how Sun are placed in your chart, then you will get good results. Okay, and initially, even if you have certain differences with your father also, eventually those differences will be sorted out, and with time you will grow more and more responsible towards your father. You will develop greater understanding, and you'll be able to understand even your father's position, and you will be willing to take up responsibility, and so you will also learn to respect your father. So these things will happen when Jupiter is well placed and Sun is also well placed in the chart. Then initially there could be differences or problems with your father, but eventually those problems will vanish eventually. I mean, they will somehow be sorted out, and your relationship with your father will improve over time. But if the dispositor of retrograde Saturn is not well placed in the chart, and if Jupiter and Sun are also not well placed, then it is not a good placement. You may definitely get distance from the father. Either the father may not be present, the father is not present, father is absent, or you may be totally distanced from your father. You may have conflicts with your father. That is also possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 9th house, and if the dispositor is not well placed. Then you may also encounter difficulties in foreign travel, obstacles in foreign travel. You may not be able to see rise in your fortune. You may not be able to see growth and expansion in life. That is also possible, and that will happen when Sun and Jupiter and the dispositor of Saturn are not well placed in the chart. Okay, but yes, generally this is a challenging placement. When retrograde Saturn is in the 9th house, you may encounter obstacles in your higher education. You may have problems even with your teachers at times. Okay, even with your guru, with your father. So yeah, you may not believe in religion much. That is also possible. You may somehow get estranged from your own religion. You may not believe in your religion also. When Saturn gets retrograde in the 9th house, you may follow some other religion, it is possible, or you may not follow any religion at all. That is also possible. But so generally this is a challenging placement. Okay, so even if you want to gain name and fame also, you may encounter obstacles. Okay, so growth and expansion also in life can get delayed a lot. So then you need to do the remedies for Saturn. You need to do the remedies for even retrograde Saturn's dispositor in your chart. So you should do the remedies for these planets. Okay, this is part of the Dharma trine and ruled by fire sign, originally the sign of Sagittarius. So definitely here Saturn does not feel that comfortable. If Jupiter is well placed, then you will believe in your karma. You will believe in your you may not follow religious rituals so much, but you will actually be very dutiful in life. That will happen. You will believe in justice, you will believe in morality if Jupiter is well placed. Okay, and you will be a very responsible person. You will take responsibility for your actions also. Okay, so all these things will happen when Jupiter is well placed. Sun also is well placed. Yes friends, now let's move on to retrograde Saturn in the 10th house. Okay, 10th house is the house of Capricorn, and it is ruled by Saturn. Okay, Saturn is the original ruler of the 10th house, and it is also and Capricorn is the original sign here. It's an earth sign. So here retrograde Saturn can give you good results, but you will have to review your performance in your profession, your actions, how you are handling your profession. So everything you need to review well. So then you will get good results. When you have retrograde Saturn in the 10th house, if it is happening in earth signs, Saturn is in any of the earth signs or air signs also, you can get good results. You will get good results. Okay, you may not get good results if Saturn is in fire signs and getting retrograde in the 10th house. Then the challenges may be even of a higher stature before you. Okay, so but yes, retrograde Saturn in the 10th house, if the dispositor is well placed, and if then definitely if the dispositor is well placed and retrograde Saturn in the 10th house is also not getting afflicted, then definitely you may initially encounter some setbacks, some delays, some obstacles in your profession, but you will focus on your hard work and you will move ahead in your profession, because this is part of the Earth trine, the trine of materialistic pursuits. Here retrograde Saturn will make you very practical, very methodical, and you will be very structured. You will believe in discipline, you will believe in authority. Okay, and finally you will rise up the ladder also, and you will also be able to gain wealth in your life when you have retrograde Saturn in the 10th house. If dispositor is well placed, then definitely you can end up gaining a lot of wealth also from your profession. That is possible. You will be very systematic, methodical, detail oriented also in your work. That's possible. Now retrograde Saturn in the 10th house, generally speaking, initially there could be certain obstacles in your profession. Yes, but eventually what Saturn wants you may also meet with failures. You may have to face setbacks, downfall initially, but Saturn wants you to make a pause, think over everything deeply, what went wrong, how you could have improved yourself better. Saturn wants you to move inwards, analyze the situation deeply, properly, so that you gain insights into things and you become wise, and you finally make a comeback with greater wisdom and understanding of things. That's what Saturn wants you to do when Saturn is retrograde in the 10th house. Okay, you need to review your performance in your profession. You yourself, you should be a judge or a critic. You can be your own critic, you can be your own judge, how you have been performing, how you have been doing in your professional sphere, and where you need to improve. So that is very important for you to do. So if you keep on doing that, you will keep on growing. Okay, there is no denial when you have retrograde Saturn in the 10th house. Saturn does not deny anything. There can be a slight delay, or delay can be there, but finally you can be successful in your profession, and you can also finally end up gaining wealth in life. All right, so yeah, so all these things we can say when retrograde Saturn is in your 10th house. So you need to analyze things, very important. So if you are into research and investigation, if your profession is connected to that, then you will get very good results, because retrograde Saturn gives you the power to do research and investigate things in a wonderful way. Okay, so you have some pending karma connected to your work. Okay, so some pending karma. So maybe you have to be more accountable to authority. You have to be more accountable to even people in society at large. Maybe you are accountable to everyone, because 10th house is also the house of your public image. So through your work, through your service, finally maybe you are serving people or some section of society. So you are accountable to everybody. You're accountable to your authorities at the workplace. You're accountable to the people at large, to the people in society at large also. Okay, so Saturn wants you to be accountable. Saturn wants you to be responsible, structured, goal oriented. Then definitely you will get very good results. Okay, you will learn from initial failures and you will emerge very successful eventually in your profession. That is also possible. Now let's move to what will happen when retrograde Saturn is in your 11th house. This house is originally ruled by Aquarius, which is an air sign, and here Saturn feels comfortable. And this house is also originally ruled by Saturn. The significator is Jupiter. So you have to find out how Jupiter and Saturn, if Saturn should not be afflicted, and how Jupiter is placed in the chart when Saturn is retrograde in the 11th house. If Saturn is retrograde here and Saturn's dispositor is more or less well placed, if Jupiter is also well placed, then definitely you will get very good results when you have retrograde Saturn in the 11th house. This is also the ultimate Upachaya Bhava, and this is also the house of the ultimate desires, because this is also the ultimate house of the Kama Trikona, the trine of desires. So here you have a retrograde Saturn in the 11th house. You can be very, very analytical. You can do very well in any field of research, investigation again. And also you will have a tendency to review, what sort of relationship you have with people in your social circle, because 11th house is also the house of your social circle. You will also have a tendency to review your own gains from your profession. So whether the kind of gain that you received, the promotion that you got, is it really up to the mark? So yeah, initially when you have retrograde Saturn in the 11th house, you may not be satisfied also with your growth in profession, with your growth in income. You may not be satisfied with with the promotion that you have got. It can cause dissatisfaction also initially, and then you will have a lot of tendency to review things, that why I could not get my promotion, why I am not being able to see growth in my income. That is possible. Okay, and if the dispositor is not well placed in the chart, Saturn's dispositor is not well placed, then you may encounter hurdles and obstacles in seeing growth in income. So this can happen. Okay, and also you may fall into some bad company. That is also possible if the dispositor is not well placed. You may be mingling with certain people in your social circle who are actually taking advantage of you, who are actually misusing they are actually maybe misusing you in some way. They are actually manipulating you maybe, and you are being even maybe misguided by them. That is also possible, because these people maybe, there are some people in your social circle, if the dispositor is not well placed, okay, Saturn's dispositor in the chart, and if retrograde Saturn is in the 11th house, then you are maybe mingling with people with certain people in your social circle who are draining away your energy. Yes, who are actually trying to take advantage of you. They are trying to manipulate you for their own gains and benefits. Okay, so that is possible. And then what will happen, no? And because of that, you will not be able to see growth in your income or rise in your profession. And then you may encounter even failures also. And what will happen if the dispositor is not so well placed? Then if you really fall, or even if however the dispositor is placed, when Saturn is retrograde in the 11th house, I have seen, if you have to undergo a setback, no, in your profession, that is a blessing in disguise for you. When you get that setback, or when you have a downfall in your profession, so that will be the greatest teacher actually. So you will learn a lot from that experience, from that bitter experience, and then you will know that you have to make a pause. You will have to stop all associations. You will have to stop all associations with toxic people in your social circle. You cannot afford to mingle with them. You will withdraw yourselves from such toxic company. Okay, and you will focus more on your goals. You will focus on your goals. So when Jupiter is more or less well placed, even if initially you face some setback, you will get up and you will be able to realize that yes, you really need to withdraw yourself from certain harmful or toxic people in your social circle, and you will distance yourself from them, and you will focus more on your goals, on your targets. And if Jupiter is well placed in the chart, then you will set realistic targets, achievable targets. But you will be very ambitious also. This is the trine of the ultimate trinal house of desires. So it will make you very ambitious, and then you will focus only on your goals and ambition, and you will excel in your profession, and you will be very successful in your profession, and you will gain from your profession. You will gain from your social circle also eventually, because you know with whom you should interact in your social circle. Who are those people with whom you should actually interact? You will be able to identify that because you are reviewing everything. When Saturn is retrograde, okay, you will review in what way you can improve your life, in what way you can attain your goals and targets. Okay, who are the people who can guide you, benefit you? Who are the people who are misguiding you, and you need to distance yourself from them? So all these things, you have to go into a self-introspection mode that will enable you to become very successful in your endeavors. You'll be able to fulfill all your desires in life pertaining to your profession, pertaining even to your, not just pertaining to your professional goals, you'll be able to fulfill your desires pertaining to your relationship or relationship goals also. All right, so you will also get to know, yes, you can also limit your social circle to those people who are really meaningful for you. Okay, and then you will be able to see growth and rise in income, and you will be able to see a lot of prosperity in life. You will benefit from your professional endeavors. You will also benefit from interpersonal relationships, and you will see growth. Okay, so you have some pending karma connected to the 11th house. 11th house is also the house of the society. So maybe you may get okay, when you have retrograde Saturn in the 11th house, you may be connected to some social welfare organization eventually, and you may work for the welfare of the downtrodden maybe, or the weaker sections of society. That is also possible, and that's what you should also do. Anyway, Saturn retrograde in the 11th house is a wonderful position for doing research, because 11th house is originally ruled by Aquarius, which is an air sign. Air sign is the sign of intelligence, intellectual power, of great analytical ability as well. So you can do research, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn only. So you can do very good research in any field. If your profession is connected to research, investigation, again, you will get wonderful results when you have Saturn retrograde in the 11th house, and all your desires can be granted and fulfilled also in this life. Now let's move on to Saturn retrograde in the 12th house. 12th house is originally ruled by Pisces, water sign. This is a wonderful placement for moving towards spirituality, spiritual practices, meditation, yoga, breathing exercise. Okay, so you can do that. If Saturn is placed in the 12th house in water signs, you will definitely, it's very good for you to move towards spirituality. If it is placed even in air signs or earth signs, then also definitely you can gain from foreign lands. Now, even if Saturn is placed in, you can gain from foreign lands if your profession is connected to foreign lands. If Saturn is placed in any kind of sign also in the 12th house, you have to find out how the dispositor is placed in the chart. If Saturn's dispositor is well placed in the chart, then definitely you will be successful in anything which is connected to foreign lands, foreign based companies, foreign transactions in your work, or if you are engaged in investments, then you will get good results. Saturn, retrograde Saturn in the 12th house. Saturn wants you to focus on your investments that you are making. Whatever investments, are you making proper investments, proper financial investments? Are you making proper long-term financial investments in order to secure your future? Okay, if you do that, then definitely, over time, you will see that, you will benefit from those long-term investments. It's possible. Your profession can be connected to investments, investment banking. Your profession can be connected to that. Your profession, you could be connected to loans, or you may ask people to make investments. So it is possible when you have retrograde Saturn in the 12th house. Retrograde Saturn in the 12th house, your profession can give you very good results if you move to a foreign land also. So you may encounter obstacles in moving to a foreign land, but finally if you're able to move to a foreign land, then you can get good results pertaining to your profession also. But 12th house, we know, is also the house of loss. So if Saturn's dispositor is not well placed in the chart, if Jupiter, because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, if Jupiter is also not well placed, then you may encounter losses in your profession. That is also possible. A lot of changes in your profession. You may even lose your job. That is also possible. So Saturn, retrograde Saturn wants you to look inwards, to move towards self-introspection. Because Pisces, 12th house originally ruled by Pisces. Pisces is a water sign connected to intuition. Saturn wants you to improve your sense of intuition. Or if your profession is connected to any sort of research, technology, then also you will get good results actually. Because 12th house is in trine also to the 8th house. So if it is connected to any sort of research, technology, if it is connected to investigation also, you will do very well. When Saturn retrograde is in the 12th house, your profession can be connected to that of a psychologist. So you can do very well in the field of psychology, you can do very well in the field of data science, in the field of technology, you can do very well in the field of any sort of research, investigation. When Saturn is retrograde in the 12th house, you can do very well in any creative field also, because Pisces is a water sign connected to creativity, artistic abilities and imagination, imaginative power. So you can do very well if your profession is connected to imagination. Okay, so you could be a fictional writer, you could be a painter, your profession could be connected to your imaginative power, your creative ability, any sort of, you could be a very good dancer also, because after all it is the 12th house, which is originally ruled by Pisces. Okay, so yeah, you could have any artistic skills or talents, and your profession can be, if your profession is connected to that particular artistic skill or creative skill or talent, then you will get good results. Because Saturn retrograde in the 12th house, 12th house is originally the house of Pisces, water sign. So you have to look inwards, find out what creativity you have within yourself. Do you really have some sort of creative skill? Do you really have any sort of skill within you? Any artistic ability do you have within you? Have you suppressed that for long? Then don't suppress that. Let that artistic ability find expression through your work, and then you will see, you will get very good results in your profession. Saturn retrograde in the 12th house is a very good position for getting into any sort of spiritual practices. Okay, so here Saturn also will make you focus on your expenditure. You will analyze everything pertaining to your expenditure. If the dispositor is well placed, Saturn's dispositor, if Jupiter is well placed in the chart, then you will know how to spend your money. You will be able to curtail your unnecessary expenses also, and you will instead focus on making sensible, intelligent, long-term investments for your future, financial investments. So yeah, so all these things can happen when Saturn is retrograde in Pisces. Okay, so yeah, so and Pisces is also connected to your subconscious mind, connected to self-realization also, because what this Pisces sign and 12th house is part of the moksha trine. That is why here, when Saturn is retrograde, you have some pending karma connected to your spiritual growth. Maybe you need to focus on your spiritual growth. Actually, you need to be charitable towards people when you have Saturn retrograde in the 12th house. You need to do some charity. You need to be kind to all animals, birds and creatures. You need to be kind to the downtrodden, to the unprivileged. Then you will get very good results. Because 12th house is the ultimate house of compassion, charity and devotion also. Okay, so your real devotion will be reflected in your charitable actions, in your actions of charity, when you are kind to the unprivileged, to the downtrodden. So that is how you show your devotion to maybe the creator, your devotion to the creator, because it is the creator who created all these beings, and now you are so sensitive, you want to help them out, you want to be charitable. So that is something. So you will instead, when Saturn is retrograde in 12th house, you can move towards spiritual practices. Okay, you will give a lot of importance to self-realization also. It is possible. All right. So yeah, initially, definitely when Saturn is retrograde in the 12th house, then initially you may have to face certain hardships losses in profession and all, but it is because of your failures, because of your downfalls, that you will finally rise in life. Because your downfall or your failure is actually going to be a blessing in disguise for you. It is all about our perspective, friends, how we look at things. Okay, if you look upon failure as something which is detrimental to your growth, then that is your perspective, and that is how a pessimist will look upon failure. But if you are someone who is enlightened, then you will look upon failure as a blessing in disguise, as an opportunity to learn, to introspect, to get to the bottom of things, to gain insights, to gain wisdom, and to get up and move ahead towards success. So it is your failure which will finally enable you to wake up to the reality, and it will enable you to, make a pause, indulge in self-introspection, identify your shortcomings, rectify yourself, and then you will realize, especially when Saturn is retrograde in the 12th house, you will realize that it is meaningless to hanker after material things, because after all 12th house is the house of moksha trine. So material things, money and even certain relationships, everything is so transient and temporary. What is permanent? Permanent is, the soul consciousness. Okay, your self-realization, that is the most important thing that you have to attain. That's what you will realize when you have a retrograde Saturn in the 12th house. It can make you a saint also. It can make you a yogi. It can definitely help you to move into any sort of spiritual practice or spiritual path. Okay, and you will become selfless. You will believe in selfless devotion, and you will believe in helping the weak and needy. All right, and you will also believe in healing others, in guiding others. You can be a very good healer, you can be a very good occultist if you have a retrograde Saturn in the 12th house. You can be a spiritual guide also. So all these things, friends, we can predict about retrograde Saturn in the 12th house. So we should always look for opportunity in everything. Every setback, every failure actually also offers you an opportunity to learn more about yourself, to learn more about life. Yes, friends, so that was my take on Saturn, retrograde Saturn in all the 12 houses of your birth chart. So what results you can get when you have retrograde Saturn in the 12th house? Retrograde Saturn definitely shows that there is a lot of pending karma pertaining to that house. And Saturn will always give you good results if you believe in charity. So the final remedy also for retrograde Saturn for all houses, if retrograde Saturn is in any house of your birth chart, then also you will get good results if you believe in charity. If you are kind, if you are compassionate, if you are charitable to the poor, to the downtrodden and the unprivileged, then retrograde Saturn, no matter in which house it is placed, it will eventually give you good results. And you will eventually not only become successful in your profession, but you will also attain self-realization, which is actually the purpose of our existence. Thank you, friends, and do like, share and support this channel of yours, and please do not forget to subscribe. If you want personal consultation, you can get in touch with me. Take care. Thank you.